Hi everyone, I'm Joanne Smith and I play the Autoharp. And on today's edition of the Autoharp Avenue podcast, I was in the process of changing an entire set of strings on one of my Autoharps. The strings had gotten to be a couple of years old and they're getting a little bit dull sounding, so the entire set needs to be changed. So what I thought I would do is, while I was in the process of doing this, it would be a great opportunity to show you all how to go about changing a string. And it's a real simple exercise. It's not really that hard at all, and I'll walk you through it step by step. And once you figure out how to do one, it's just the same thing 36 more times. So it's going to be a little tricky. I'm going to be switching between this camera here on my iMac, and I'm going to be switching to another camera so that you can see it close up. But I'll see if I can get it pasted together for you and see how it works out. So here we go. Okay, here we are. And what I've done so far is I've removed the chord bars from the Autoharp itself, and I've taken them off. And starting with a clean slate here, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be removing one of these strings here and replacing it with a new one. The first thing you need to do when you're getting ready to replace a string is, number one, you want to loosen it as much as possible. So what I'm doing is taking my tuning wrench, and we're going to change this little string right here. It's the second one from the end. And so what I want to do is I want to turn this tuning wrench and see how many turns it takes to get the string unwound. So let's count here. Let's go 1 half turn, 2 half turns, 3 half turns, and probably I'd say maybe 4. Okay. Now the string loosens up quite a bit, and that's enough to be able to work with it and get it off. The smaller strings usually will just pop right off like that without having to actually clip them. The larger wound strings, you may end up having to use some wire clips to clip this end off. Okay, now that we've got this end out, we want to come down here to the other end and undo this. Now this Autoharp has fine tuners, and what they are is they're a little cam-driven contraption here. And what I'm going to do is unscrew this all the way, and you'll be able to see how they operate. Now, if you have an Autoharp that doesn't have fine tuners, you'll simply have a plain comb at the end that the ball end of the string will fit in. But this one has fine tuners, and it's a little more complicated, but not really so bad. Okay, now if you take a close look at this here, this is how the fine tuner works. It's a little screw that screws down into the base, and the further down it goes, the more it rocks back. As you can see, the string goes right down through the hole in the top, and there's the ball end right there. And so we're just going to slide that right out of there. And here's where you'll need to get your wire trimmers. I'm going to cut that squiggle off the end there so that you can slide it right out. Now let's take our new string, which in this case I've got a whole set because I'm going to be replacing the whole thing. This is string number 36 in the key of tuned to an A note. You can see it's got this little ball end and a little pigtail here. The first thing you want to do is you want to take your, well, where's my needle nose pliers? There they are. You want to take this little tiny pigtail end and you want to bend it up towards the ball. And this will help it seat into the fine tuner. Once you've done that, and you take your fine tuner, which is somewhere now, here it is. Okay, and you want to thread the string up through the hole, if I can get it in there. Whoops. Trying to hold it so that you can see it here. There we go. Go straight up through there. And then you pull until that ball end seats into the very bottom, and that little pigtail will help hold it. once you've done that, you want to very gently bend it over the end, like so. Not a firm crimp, just ease it over the top. Now this goes back down into the base of the Autoharp. Slide that in there like that, and there's a little place where it fits. And that's when you take your little Allen wrench here and you work it down in. A little fiddly getting it started, but once you get going, it's usually alright. And I'm going to try to screw that down in there. Screw it down in there tight, but you don't want to get it down in there too deep. You want to give yourself some room because you're going to be doing a lot of adjustment with a new string. Okay, now that that's down in there, you want to help it come over the base here and up to the top, and it wants to go into this tuning pin right here. Now here's a point where you're going to want to trim off. You've got a lot of wire here and you don't want all that wound around the base of the pin. So what I generally do is about 1.5 inches beyond the pin. That's where I take the wire cutters. And I'm going to snip that at about 1.5 inches right there. Okay. Now I can feed this through the hole. And I'm going to stop here just a second. I'm going to turn this so that it's just so that the hole is aimed directly at the string. It just makes it easier. I'm going to come through here over the top of the bar, this right here, and this little guide pin here. You want to get beyond that. Now here's a trick that you can do to make sure that you have a nice safe end on your string. Take your needle nose pliers. It's a little fiddly, but it's worth the extra trouble. Hold it very close to the end, maybe 1/3 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch out. See if I can get this gripped on here and then I'll show you. Okay. You want to hold it very tight, and then you want to turn it over on top of itself. So you bend that down. And that way that wire is not going to stick out straight and poke you sometime. But what you end up with is a little loop at the end. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's a little loop. And when we pull that back, that little loop will seat into the back of the tuning pin. Let's see if I can get it to do that. And go in there. It takes a little bit of fiddling, but you get the idea. There. Alright, now it's in. Now you want to take your tuning wrench and you want to turn it back the same number of turns you took to wind out. Now, it should be 3 to 4 turns, or half turns. Okay, 1, and holding the string very tight. 1 half turn, 2 half turns, pulling on the string all the while, 3 half turns, and you'll see it begins to seat down there, and 4. Once it starts getting really snug, then you want to start checking it, and that's about a half step off. This should be an A, and so I'm going to quickly attach my tuner here, turn it on, if I can get it mounted here. There we are. And we want this to be an A. Right now it's saying G sharp, so let's squeeze it up to an A. And there we are. And we have just changed a string on the Autoharp. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little installment on how to change a string on your Autoharp, and I hope by seeing this that'll show you that it's really not that difficult. Just a little time consuming, but the more often you do it, the faster you'll get, and I hope it takes some of the mystery out of it and that you'll feel confident that you can handle a string change on your own, and maybe even one of these days a whole set. So I'll look forward to seeing you again on another installment of the Autoharp Avenue podcast. And in the meantime, take care and make good music.